So there's rumours of a GTA 4 port or remaster being worked on by Rockstar. And Rockstar themselves recently and accidentally added PS4 as a platform for GTA 4 on their support site. So there's a good chance that a remaster is happening. While this sounds fantastic, they're likely going to use the PC codebase as a foundation for this new remaster, as it's the latest codebase of GTA 4. But the problem is, the PC codebase is full of issues that didn't exist on the console versions of GTA 4. We've seen this before with the definitive editions, and we've seen it with non-GTA games too, such as Crysis Remastered. Thankfully, modders have been remastering the PC version of GTA 4 themselves over the last few years, with the mod Fusion Fix, making it the best way to play GTA 4 on any platform. So let's take a look, and maybe Rockstar can learn a thing or two for this upcoming remaster. So the first thing I want to show, as it'll be featured throughout this video, is this new Sunshafts graphical effect. This option enables God rays from the sun, and it looks seriously good. Rays shining through foliage or through the buildings of Liberty City as the sun sets looks unreal, and the effect still fits well within the atmosphere of the game. Playing the game without sunshafts almost seems wrong now after playing with them. The effect makes the sun look so much better than before. You can enable and disable sunshafts directly in the pause menu. They're disabled by default as it's an additional effect not seen in the original game. But as well as sunshafts, Fusion Fix brings another brand new graphical effect to the game, Volumetric Fog. This option replaces the original fog shader with this unreal looking volumetric fog shader. This brings quite a few improvements over the original fog. For example, with the original fog, when you're up high and looking at the horizon, you can clearly see the water cutoff at the edge of the game's far clip. When the camera moves, the horizon also looks like it's moving because the far clip shifts with the camera. As well as the far clip, the fog also shifts as the camera moves. Look how the airport is covered in less fog when it's at the edge of the screen rather than the center of the screen. All of this looks quite bad and gamey, but with volumetric fog, when you're up high, the fog now covers Liberty City in the distance, and you can no longer see the water cutoff at the horizon because the edge of the far clip is hidden by the volumetric fog. This also means the horizon moving as the camera moves no longer happens, and the fog itself no longer moves with the camera as it now has radial depth. The airport in this example remains covered in fog regardless of camera position, unlike the vanilla game. The colour of the fog also blends perfectly with the bottom colour of the sky for each weather type. Volumetric fog looks very natural in GTA 4 when compared to the old fog. This is a big improvement, and this is how games like GTA 5 do fog too. With the ugly horizon now hidden, the team could improve other aspects of the game thanks to volumetric fog. In the original game, the far clip is 1500 meters at sea level, and it increases up to 3000 meters as you go higher. This doesn't look very natural, and as well as that, because the far clip is so low on the ground, you can also see buildings clip in and out of the far clip as you move the camera around at certain locations. But with volumetric fog enabled, the far clip is locked to 4500 meters at any altitude, so it no longer changes as you gain height. Because the entire city is now within the game's far clip, you'll no longer see buildings clipping in and out of the far clip when the camera moves. This increased draw distance looks absolutely fantastic and massively improves the visuals. The fog makes sure the scale of the map still feels the same, despite the fact that the far clip is increased, unlike say the original release of the definitive editions, which ruined the scale of the game world. I'd even say this feature makes Liberty City feel bigger than it did before, now that all of the skyscrapers are always in sight. Lastly, with the original fog during foggy weather, things like lights would basically appear over the fog, but with volumetric fog, during foggy weather, the lights now appear behind the fog like they should. Foggy weather itself now looks much better too, especially at height where fog would disappear in the vanilla game. Volumetric fog was never in GTA 4 before on any platform, so this is all completely new to the game. Volumetric Fog is disabled by default, but it can easily be enabled and disabled in the options menu. And just a reminder, if you're enjoying this video so far, please don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks. While we're talking about volumetrics, volumetric lights were broken in the PC version due to a typo, and they didn't actually occlude anything that was in their way. FusionFix fixes this so objects in front of volumetric lights will now block light. As well as fixing volumetric lights, the newest version of FusionFix has also improved the volumetric transparency code, so the edges of volumetric lights are now smoother than before instead of cutting off sharply. One thing you probably noticed during the comparisons with the vanilla game is that the vanilla game looks a bit more washed out compared to the FusionFix clips. This is due to an option FusionFix adds to the game called Console Gamma. Console Gamma restores the color curve from the console version of the game, which in general produced a more contrasty image compared to the PC version. The game gets a little bit darker and colors pop a lot more with this option enabled. This option has been in FusionFix for a long time, but with the latest update it's even more accurate to console colors than before. As well as Console Gamma, FusionFix now adds a basic tone mapping option to the game. The goal of this option is to reduce blown out whites, which the vanilla game previously struggled with as it didn't have tone mapping. And lastly, regarding the game's colours, all versions of GTA 4 have bad colour banding in the sky at certain times. FusionFix adds dithering, which significantly reduces this colour banding and makes the sky look much better overall. You might still see some banding in this video because of compression, but it's not visible to me when actually playing the game. Rain in GTA 4 has several problems on PC. To begin, there's 4 times more rain streaks and rain splashes on the PC version of GTA 4 than the console version. However, these rain effects were then made barely visible on the PC version. At nighttime, rain is basically invisible in the vanilla game. FusionFix reduces the rain effects back to console levels, but it also makes rain visibility stronger like it was on console. Reducing the density of the rain effects back to console levels was necessary because if FusionFix just increased the rain visibility but kept the original PC rain density, you'd end up with an effect similar to that seen in the original release of the definitive editions. In the vanilla game, the size of the rain streaks were also tied to the frame rate, and they became shorter if your FPS was higher. FusionFix fixes this. Lastly, for rain, the droplet effect on screen when it rains was black on PC because of a bug, and the droplets themselves lost their refraction effect. FusionFix makes the rain droplets appear white like they were on console, and it restores the refraction effect as well, which is best seen at nighttime. And while we're talking about water, in the vanilla game, the surface texture of water in the PC version was excessively tiled. This made it look quite noisy and shimmery. FusionFix changes the surface texture of the water, so the noisiness is significantly reduced, and the texture just looks better overall in my opinion. There was also a bug where water would become nearly flat on some GPUs during gameplay. FusionFix also fixes this issue. The sea foam effect at coastal areas was completely missing in the PC version. This has been restored by FusionFix and it looks much better. And as well as that, the FusionFix team have tweaked water that's near terrain, so it blends way smoother into the terrain than it did before. The latest version of FusionFix adds a new option called Extended Sun Reach. This option vastly improves how the sun lights up Liberty City, especially a lot of the buildings. Parallel Lines, the FusionFix developer behind this option, gave his explanation behind it. In GTA 4, how much a surface is lit is determined by the angle between the direction it is facing and the direction of the sun. It can be up to 90 degrees, but vanilla GTA 4 clamps it at 75 degrees. This new option allows it to reach 90 degrees. This is a great addition which massively improves the look of the game, and you can enable and disable it from the pause menu. Vehicle reflections on PC were toned down compared to console, and they were also jagged due to an issue in the reflection code. FusionFix restores the stronger console vehicle reflections on PC, and it also fixes the issue with the reflections becoming jagged. Mirrors also had problems on the PC version where they became distorted at certain camera angles. It looks like Nico just decided to take the red pill. Fusion Fix fixes mirror reflections so this no longer happens.
Shove that red pill right up your ass!
The graffiti on this mirror also flickers repeatedly in the vanilla game. This doesn't happen with Fusion Fix and it appears correctly. With Fusion Fix, shadows have been massively reworked and improved. There is now several different filter options inside the options menu for users to select, similar to GTA 5. This includes a CHSS filter, which enables contact hardening shadows. This filter makes the shadows sharper where the shadow is closer to the object casting the shadow, and softer where the shadow is further away from the object casting the shadow. This was in Fusion Fix previously, but it has been optimized significantly in recent updates, and it looks better than before too. Previously, shadows suffered from Peter panning. This is where shadows would appear away from the object casting them. This has been basically eliminated with Fusion Fix. Fusion Fix also makes it so shadows from trees now correctly follow the animation of the tree moving. Overall, shadows were possibly the most broken aspect of GTA 4 on PC, because they were terribly implemented. But Fusion Fix fixes most of these issues, gives you plenty of options, and optimizes shadows significantly. GTA 4 had soft particles on the console version of the game, but they were missing on PC. Fusion Fix adds soft particles back to the game on PC, making particle effects look much nicer. Soft particles basically make the edges of particle effects smoother so they don't harshly clip into models. GTA 4 on PC has several issues with model fading being broken. On all versions of GTA 4 on PC, terrain fading is broken, so things like these cliffs just suddenly swap between their LOD model and their high quality model without any fading. Fusion Fix fixes this so terrain fading works again, and the terrain will now smoothly swap between the two. GTA 4 uses screen door transparency to fade a lot of other objects on the map. However, later versions of the game on PC broke screen door transparency, so everything pops in and out instead of fading nicely. Models without LODs would just appear and disappear from sight without any fading, and models with LODs would simply swap between their high quality model and their LOD model without any fading as well. This is how it should look, using some fixed shader files. Models without LODs should simply fade in and out of existence, and models with LODs should fade between their high quality model and LOD model too. Fusion Fix fixes screen door transparency so it works again, but I won't cover how this looks with Fusion Fix just yet, as the mod does a lot more to the effect. You might notice with the fixed shader files, objects fading causes this ugly pixel pattern effect as transparency occurs. This is a side effect of screen door transparency. Now, Rockstar did attempt to hide this, but to understand how, we have to look at this weird option in GTA 4 called Definition. This option does several things, mostly broken things. At first glance, Definition off just blurs the screen, and Definition on simply removes the blur seen when it's off. So let's talk about this blur effect first. Turning Definition off enables a filter which blurs the entire screen. This is intentional, and this is how Rockstar tries to hide this pixel pattern effect. However, on PC, the blur is quite a bit more intense than it was on console. This is due to some leftover and incomplete anti-aliasing code on PC, which results in the screen being much blurrier than intended. Using some modified shader files, which removes this broken anti-aliasing code, we can see how the blur is intended to look. This is how intense the blur would have been on Xbox 360, which had it enabled by default and with no option to turn it off. This blur filter is intended to hide the pixel pattern during fades, and it's also meant to hide a similar pixel pattern effect seen on shadows in early versions of the game on PC, as well as all versions of the game on console. Okay, so what else does definition do? When definition is off, it enables motion blur seen in vehicles when going fast, and it also enables depth of field in the distance. Yes, setting this option to off enables graphical effects, and yes, they're all tied to one option with no individual choices. Brilliant PC port. Anyway, both of these graphical effects have issues on PC. To begin, depth of field doesn't scale with resolution. It's designed to run at 720p like the Xbox 360 version of the game, so when you're playing at resolutions higher than 720p, depth of field will become weaker than intended. The motion blur effect is tied to frame rate, so the higher your frame rate, the weaker the effect is. Lastly, when you set definition to on, which disables depth of field and motion blur, they're still calculated in the background. So you get the performance loss of having them on, but you don't actually see them. So yeah, the definition option is a confusing mess, and all it does is enable broken effects on PC. Thankfully, Fusion Fix does some major work here with the definition option. First off, Fusion Fix separates depth of field and motion blur from the definition option, so you can enable and disable these effects separately. When these effects are disabled, they no longer consume resources, unlike the vanilla game. The new depth of field option allows you to select the strength of the depth of field, or you can just leave it enabled only for cutscenes. The effect itself has basically been completely rewritten, and it looks vastly better than the vanilla depth of field. This rewritten depth of field now scales with resolution correctly as well, so it's the same strength regardless of resolution. Just like the new depth of field option, the motion blur option allows you to change the strength of the effect, and motion blur also no longer changes based on the frame rate like it did before. The definition option itself remains for the blur filter, but the filter has been reworked significantly. When definition is on with Fusion Fix, the game will still use the filter, which is meant to smooth out the pixel pattern effect, but instead of affecting the entire screen like the vanilla game did even on console, the filter now only applies to objects where the pixel pattern effect is generally seen. The pixel pattern itself has been changed, so it's less ugly and easier to filter too. Shadows with Fusion Fix are higher quality than the shadows seen in early PC versions and all console versions of the game, so they no longer need this filter to smooth out any issues like they did before. Definition being on will also make some objects use an alpha test for transparency instead of screen door transparency, which will result in a sharper image on some transparent objects. All of this means you get a sharper and cleaner image in GTA 4 using Fusion Fix than you do playing the game on any other platform. Disabling definition with Fusion Fix means the filter that smooths out the pixel pattern effect will now apply to the entire screen again, but without the anti-aliasing bug seen in the vanilla game. This is how the Xbox 360 version would look. Turning definition off with Fusion Fix also restores the old shadow filter seen on early PC versions of the game and all of the console versions of the game, which some people might like this for nostalgia purposes. Since we just mentioned anti-aliasing, the Xbox 360 version of the game uses 2x MSAA. The PC version of the game has no anti-aliasing whatsoever, which means the game can be quite a shimmery mess at times. Fusion Fix adds FXAA and SMAA graphical options, two types of anti-aliasing which are performance friendly and work especially well at higher resolutions such as 1440p. Similar to the other effects we've talked about, bloom in GTA 4 also doesn't scale correctly with resolution. I'm going to use foggy weather to showcase bloom, as this is when the effect is most intense. In the vanilla game, the higher your resolution, the less intense bloom becomes. The lower your resolution, the more intense it becomes. It only looks the way it's meant to look at 720p. Fusion Fix has basically rewritten the code for bloom, making it smoother and able to scale correctly to different resolutions. Anyway, Fusion Fix also adds an option for Bloom allowing you to enable and disable the effect if you like. Again, it's not always as strong as I've shown here. During other weather types, this is generally the difference Bloom makes to the game, which is why I'd recommend keeping it on. Also, you probably noticed the Rotterdam Tower isn't lit up in the vanilla game. This is because Rockstar broke Emissive Shaders in patch 6 on PC and never addressed it in later updates. This meant several buildings on the map that were meant to light up never did. Fusion Fix fixes this so Emissive Shaders now work again and buildings light up like they're supposed to. The PC version of GTA 4 suffered heavily from Z fighting. The vanilla game looks extremely broken when you fly or gain any sort of height, with parts of the map constantly flickering. Fusion Fix fixes this so Z fighting is basically non-existent. Trees in the PC version of GTA 4 use different models than the console version of the game. While Fusion Fix doesn't restore the console vegetation models, as it's not within the mod scope, the mod Console Visuals does restore the vegetation models. What Fusion Fix does do though, is it restores the way trees are lit from the Xbox 360 version of the game, which was different than the PC and PS3 version. There's several options you can select in the pause menu with Fusion Fix. I'll show all of these options with both the PC and console vegetation models. There's the PC lighting, which is the same as the vanilla game on PC. There's the console lighting option, which restores the way trees are lit on Xbox 360. And then there's an additional PC Plus lighting option, which is a mix between the PC lighting and the console lighting. This is the best in my opinion, and I think it works really well with the console vegetation. Here's a quick comparison between the vanilla game on PC and then the restored console vegetation with the PC Plus lighting. There's also an option to swap the tree alpha between console and PC. The console option makes the trees a bit denser, whereas the PC alpha makes the trees more fine and see-through. Lights had a few problems in the PC version. First off, models such as lampposts and other lights would have their bulbs light up when the lights came on. However, in the vanilla game, the model was always lit up even when the light wasn't on. Fusion Fix fixes this so the bulb only lights up when the light is actually on. As well as that, distant lights on the PC version of the game were broken compared to console. Most lights in the game turn on at 16 minutes past 7, but the lights you see in the distance, including from vehicles, don't appear until after 10 PM when it's already dark. Fusion Fix makes it so distant lights are all visible by 8 PM, like it was on console. And finally, Project 2DFX has been directly implemented into Fusion Fix, which massively improves the distant lights seen throughout Liberty City, making nighttime look much better. You can disable Project 2DFX in the options menu if you prefer the original and more sparse distant lights. Fusion Fix also features seasonal timed events as an extra bonus. At wintertime, snow is enabled across Liberty City and it looks fantastic. This is mostly done through shaders, similar to GTA Online's yearly snow event. The mod also features a Halloween event, which toggles a new time cycle that gives the game a Halloween vibe. These can be disabled in the pause menu if you don't like them, and they can both be manually activated using cheats. Fusion Fix now comes packaged with DXVK, which vastly improves the performance of GTA 4 on some systems. Fusion Fix makes this optional by adding a new graphics API option to the pause menu. This allows you to switch between DirectX 9, which is what the original game uses, and Vulkan, which is what DXVK will translate DirectX calls into. This option requires a restart to apply. While you'll likely never have to do it, The DXVK version can be updated by replacing the provided vulkan.dll file that comes with FusionFix with the latest DXVK file available. Make sure you rename the d3d9.dll file that comes with DXVK to vulkan.dll before replacing the one provided by FusionFix. And as well as all of these improvements, the mod adds tons of other bug fixes and quality of life improvements. The mod adds a type of mod loader to the game called Fusion Overloader. This means you no longer need to replace actual game files when modding GTA 4, and installing and uninstalling mods is made much easier. The game now starts up much faster, and instead of going to the PC exclusive menu, it just loads into your last save game similar to console. Load times have also been significantly reduced. You can turn these options on or off in the pause menu. In the vanilla game, mouse input at higher frame rates is stupidly broken and it barely responds to small movements. This is fixed with FusionFix and the mouse now behaves properly, even at frame rates above 60. There's a new option to allow movement while scoped in with sniper rifles, as well as an option to extend sniper rifle controls so you can also use snipers in third person. In the vanilla game, the camera tries to recenter very fast once you move it elsewhere. FusionFix adds a slider to extend the delay before the camera will start to recenter, and it even allows you to change this separately for controller. In the vanilla game, the game would lock the camera temporarily when you were in cover and came to a corner. FusionFix removes this lock and allows you to move the camera immediately once you get to a corner in cover. There's new options to center the camera on foot and in vehicles. There's an option to toggle always run, so Nico's default movement is jogging and walking is instead done by holding Alt while moving. You can still walk with a controller by pushing the analog stick slightly rather than fully. This is similar to how movement works in the older GTA titles. In the vanilla game, the camera shakes when you move, but when playing at higher frame rates, the effect is basically invisible. FusionFix fixes this so the camera shake is visible at any frame rate. FusionFix also adds an option to disable camera shake completely for those that don't like the effect. There's an option to make it so Nico will use the indicators in vehicles when he's taking turns. The mod adds selectable gamepad icons for several different platform controllers, including Steam Deck. There's now an FOV slider in the options menu. The field of view in cutscenes would get messed up at higher frame rates. The field of view in this scene looks like this at 30 FPS, but it looks like this at 120 FPS. FusionFix fixes this so cutscenes no longer zoom in or out weirdly at higher frame rates. As well as that, cutscenes stutter a lot at higher frame rates, but this has also been fixed with FusionFix. Look how much smoother the characters are here in the FusionFix comparison. The QTE at the end of the game is no longer broken at higher frame rates. There's an additional cheat code that allows you to use the gloves which Nico had in all of the promotional material for the game, as well as a cheat to use his original haircut. These new cheat codes are cleverly hidden around the map. And honestly, there's still so much more that I didn't even cover in this video that FusionFix does. I'd like to mention that aside from FusionFix, fans have made many more mods improving other aspects of the game, including high quality and faithful retextures for various aspects of the game, fixing thousands of asset issues and restoring what never should have been removed to begin with. Anyway, there's just so many improvements that Fusion Fix adds to the game that it really does feel like you're playing a faithful and perfect remaster of GTA 4 once you install the mod. A mod which is open source, I might add. And installing the mod is literally the easiest thing ever. You drag and drop the mod files into your game folder and that's it. It doesn't replace any files, you don't need to downgrade, you simply drag and drop. There's also a new optional installer you can download to install Fusion Fix 2 if you really don't know much about using a PC. The PC port of the game went from being the absolute worst way to play GTA 4 to being easily the best way to play, simply because of this mod. Before Fusion Fix, playing GTA 4 on PC was always going to be an inferior experience compared to the Xbox 360 version. You were not playing the same game. You were missing loads of graphical effects. You were getting broken graphical effects, and you were getting issues with frame rates higher than 30. It was a mess. Like I said at the beginning, Rockstar will likely use the PC version as a base for the re-release of GTA 4 on PS5, Xbox Series consoles, and possibly a PC re-release. Do not let people fool you into thinking an experience less than what Fusion Fix provides is acceptable whenever this re-release does happen. Rockstar and Take-Two own GTA, and GTA is one of the most valuable entertainment products of all time. Even their terrible Definitive Edition ports made a ton of money. Games from much smaller franchises have had proper remasters, bigger in scope than what Fusion Fix provides, and if a bunch of fans can create something like Fusion Fix without any of Rockstar's tools and without the game's source code, Rockstar should realistically be able to provide something similar or even better. Time will tell how GTA 4's re-release pans out. I hope it will be good, as it's about time arguably the best GTA game became available to more players on console, instead of the game being trapped on 7th gen consoles. I'd like to thank Parallel Lines for helping me with this video. He's done a lot of the shader work for Fusion Fix, which includes effects like Volumetric Fog and Sun Shafts, and he provided a lot of the information on some of the issues I covered in this video, as well as some of the comparisons. Lastly, the Fusion Fix team have launched a new website to coincide with the latest update of Fusion Fix. I'll leave a link down in the description, so be sure to check it out. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like. If you enjoy high quality and technical GTA videos, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.